ahead in life because I finally thought I was ahead in life because I only owe like $1,400 on my car and I should be able to pay that off with my tax refund. But today I got my new like mortgage escrow rebalancing thing, whatever it's called, and my mortgage payment went up $152 a month. $152.
So I don't want you to get caught off guard when you're buying a house and all of a sudden your escrow explodes. It's not the mortgage payment, it's the things you're escrowing out, your taxes, your insurance. These things can just adjust upwards, and as costs are going up, as everything is going up in this world, so goes your escrow. So your payment on the loan will stay the same if it's fixed 30 years or fixed 15, but your insurance cost is going to go up. They could drop you, they could force place it, they could reassess your taxes. If you bought a new build, most likely your taxes are going to be rated on the property before the house was on it, so that next year you're going to get a surprise. So let's talk about this stuff.
Going up for 2025. I just got notification that my mortgage is going up for 2025. I knew that this was going to be happening, but I had been dreading the day that it does happen. And when my husband walked in tonight with a huge stack of mail, I just knew that this was sitting in there. Basically, last year, our homeowners insurance non-renewed us, travelers. Hate you. They non-renewed us. They said that we needed a new roof. They were using satellite photos to look at our roof. Nothing wrong with our roof, according to the home inspector that inspected our home, that we had come out and re-inspect our roof. Or the 3 roofing contractors that we called to get their professional opinion. Travelers Insurance basically said, nah, shove it. You need a new roof and we're dropping you as customers. Unfortunately, that when they do that, it like puts a bad rap on your name or whatever, like you're in probation almost. So we only have one
it's worse than a felony.
homeowners insurance company right now that is willing to insure us, and it was to the tune of about $2,000 more than what we were paying, which is heartbreaking. But on a positive, we're allowed to have a trampoline without any additional cost incurred, which I guess is a win-win, right? And then
It's not a win-win. What's wild about this is these insurance companies have banded together and said, I don't care what a roofing expert says, we deem all roofs to be too old when they reach 15 years. And you can argue with them all you want. And if they drop you, it's like worse than a felony on your record. Or if you have a claim after paying for all this insurance, if you have a small claim, it's dinged against you on your record, just like a criminal record. It is wild. Or they force you to do a bunch of repairs that you weren't expecting that are super expensive just to try to keep your premium down. It's almost like a forced premium rise every so often. And I think what a lot of them are trying to do, if your housing value goes up, they want the premium to go up. And I think they're secretly lobbying behind the scenes with the building code to make you have to constantly have these new changes so they can ask for more premium.
our taxes went up in October. Coincidentally, just a few months after the community struck down a multi-million-dollar budget increase to the taxes. Community struck it down for a number of reasons, but primarily because every year for like the past 4 years, taxes have increased in the town that I live in. I do live in New Hampshire. We are one of the highest tax states out there, though I'm sure someone's going to tell me that their taxes are higher. We don't have income tax or sales tax, so that has to be recuperated through the tax of properties. And no, our governor will not legalize certain plants and tax those as a way to help make up the difference.
So that's a straw man argument, or a red herring, whatever you want to call it. In the state of Florida and many other states, you have a cap on how much they can raise your taxes every year. Here we call it homestead exemption, where it kind of says within a certain margin, let's say 3%, they can't raise your taxes more than that every year. But if you don't apply for it, then they can just reassess and throw it to the moon, to wherever they want it to be. And in some of these states, they do that. Now that is a state problem. She needs to call our legislature and say, hey, we need some homestead exemption. We need some things, if this is your home, that you can't just jack the taxes up on us every year, because it creates these bad situations. It really doesn't have anything it's not what she's trying to throw it out there as.
Instead, it gets brought down to people like myself and my husband. Fortunately, myself and my husband are employed. We're not on a fixed income. Unfortunately, a lot of people in my community and other communities are on fixed incomes. And they cannot afford these consistent tax increases. So this is pricing people out of their homes, but that's okay. We have developers coming in from other states to build affordable housing. But the affordability is going to be affordable by like
I can promise you if they taxed marijuana, they're not going to throw that on to your property tax and save the day. They're just going to throw that in as another tax on everything else. Like, politicians will find a way to increase taxes, I can promise you that.
In New York City standards. So it's going to cost you $3,600 for a one-bedroom apartment. Can you tell? Can you tell that I am passionate about this topic? Back to the escrow. The escrow increased by $860.77 over the course of the year. So monthly, that's only about a $70 increase. It's not terrible.
See, you gotta understand, politicians use the tax code and property taxes to get you to do whatever they want to do. They just increase property taxes in, let's say, a downtown area where they want to build a stadium. Everybody moves out because they can't afford the taxes. Like, let's say they inherited the property and they can't afford it. They bulldoze it. A developer comes in, buys it up, builds it up, and then stadium, big buildings for the business district, restaurants, things like that. They just get people to do things through the tax code, and that's what politicians do. That's why I never trust them when they're trying to raise taxes or trying to do things. Most of the time, they have their buddy's interest and the big time developers instead of your interest in.
Love it, but we can make adjustments to make that work in our budget. So it starts in February. Wish me luck. Just got notification.
That's not a lot. Also, you got to factor in if you have an HOA, they're going to keep raising your HOA prices. It's never going to get cheaper. HOAs are just going to keep going up. Insurance premiums are never going to get cheaper. They're just going to keep going up. That's how these people make money. That's inflation. That's the forced litigation on a lot of these insurance companies, and that's what they're going to say it is. But just plan on the non-fixed costs in your escrow that you pay with your mortgage are going to constantly go up. So don't get surprised by them.
I didn't know that when I was building a home that I was just going to have to pay taxes off the land. And then when the home is actually built, then you got to pay taxes on the actual home and the land, which increased my mortgage by $3,000. I didn't know that. So now my mortgage is increased by $3,000 from what I'm currently paying. You know, and plus you still got all these other expenses and stuff like that. Home, I think the goal should always still buy a home.
Your real estate agent should tell you this. So should your lender. And you should be thinking about what are the taxes going to be in the future. You would think the underwriter that's giving you the loan would say, hey, can you afford if the property taxes go up on the property or if insurance goes up on the property? And I think insurance is going to be a big deal in underwriting in the future, because if they look at a house and they know that in 45 days the insurance company is going to drop you or force some type of roof replacement or whatever, and they know you can't afford it, they're going to start factoring that in. It's coming.
Should be prepared to know what's to come. Like I say, if they would have told me like, hey, your tax is going to be based off of this number instead of this number in a year, no, that wouldn't have changed my decision. I still would have moved forward. But if they would have told me that, I would have been prepared and not, look in the mail and be like, bro.
Like, my mortgage payment went from $1,600 to $3,500. This is all I have been seeing going on my timeline on TikTok right now, on how everybody's mortgage rates are increasing. Honestly, I can tell you what, when I first bought my house and I had a realtor, my realtor did not tell me anything. I bought the house. I didn't know what I was doing. I was not a realtor then, of course. And I did not learn about my payment until the closing day. I did not know how much my mortgage payment was going to be until the closing day. And I signed on the dotted line. At that point, for me, I was...
That's another thing. Like, the lender should be sending you their documents 4 or 5 days prior. I think the minimum is 3 days. The real estate agent should be going over this with you. I highly suggest you do some research on agents and what they should be telling you before you even get there. That way you know they're feeding you crap when they're not answering all these questions you need to know. You need to know, like, taxes. You need to know your mortgage rate. You need to know how much you're putting down. You need to know what your payment's going to be. You need to know the things that are going to affect your payment. Talk to your lender and say, what am I escrowing? Insurance, taxes, my actual payment. And what happens if I lose my insurance? Because I didn't know this when I bought my first house, that if insurance gets dropped on me in 45 days, what do I do? Are they going to force place me insurance, what's that going to cost? What can that do to affecting my monthly payment? That way you're not caught off guard if your budget is tight and you don't have a lot of emergency fund. And that's why I always say have an emergency fund, because all of a sudden your HOA could go up, your taxes go up, and your insurance triples until you do some large repair that's going to cost you 10 grand, or a new roof, or a hot water heater, or an HVAC, or a plumbing problem. Know these things. Don't play dumb in the transaction. Ask as many questions as possible. Your agent should be able to answer them. If not, he should find, or she should find, somebody that can answer those questions. And if they don't bring a network with them or some type of contractor list that they can refer you to, find another agent, because they're paid to have a network.
Guys, tell me why my mortgage went from, don't judge me here, $3,200 a month to $5,600 a month. Backstory here is I was looking for a house back in 2022, and I put in offers on multiple homes. So we decided to go, they got declined, and they wanted 50 to 60 grand over asking price for the homes with no contingencies and all that kind of stuff. Long story short, I bought a new home with Ryan Homes. The worst decision I've ever made in my life, I swear to God, and I am paying for it till right now.
Misconception with new builds: treat them just like a resale. Make sure they're inspected by a home inspector. Make sure you see every part of the permit process as best as possible. Know what happens if you have a problem after closing. Know about that 1-year warranty that most of them will give you. Know whether they're paying for your buyer's agent. Know whether they are giving you a survey. Know whether they fix things on time or they have a good reputation. Because let me tell you, if you think you're going to go in and not get an inspection on a new build, you got another thing coming. It took me 90 days to close one time because it was so many problems. And they were missing things, and things were on back order, and they had all kinds of, the water was leaking out of the wall on the side, the roof had problems, the sheetrock had 9 million dings in it, and if you didn't have a good eye on this stuff, you would have missed it. And this happens to people all the time.
Next thing I know, I get the first tax bill on the property with land. On the property with the home build. The taxes were $16,000.
$16,000.
$16,000. So that's not the half of it. So I then go call, like, hey, is this right? Is this correct? Like, yeah, that's your correct property taxes. We're not sure why, but Ryan Holmes should did your estimate based off what your taxes could be on the home, because you're the last home built. So there's plenty of comps in the area that they can use as, hey, your taxes could be this. However, they use taxes off the land because it's going to show you a cheaper mortgage. Okay?
Know how to fight it if it comes down the line. Even call and ask to pay for somebody's time to get them to explain this to you, because sometimes you can fight these assessments, but not on vacant land versus a house, that's for sure. Everything in a new build transaction favors the builder. Everything. The contract favors the builder. The mortgage, everything they try to give you in a bundle is going to help the builder. Okay? They're in the business of making money for themselves, and if you go in there unrepresented without a buyer's agent and you just use their agent because they're slick, you're gonna hate that one. That's gonna be a bad day for you, because they're gonna run circles around you in the transaction process, and you won't know the difference, because they do this all day, every day, all year long.
Pack up the house and give it back to you. You can have it. If you own a newly constructed home, or you're buying a newly constructed home, stay here. So tell me how I signed a document with all the documents signed, your payment 1907, and you signed 1 million documents. Now a year later, they hit me up in February talking about your payment is $34.50. I bet it ain't. I bet it's not.
That's how they get you. They just sneak it in after you think you're closed, and all of a sudden you get this letter. And you know what? If you don't pay it, they got you again, okay? You have to have insurance on your house, or they either force place, and if you can't pay for the force place insurance, you're gone. Okay, miss a few of those payments and see if you know, you're still living there in 4 or 5 months. It's going to be a bad day for you. And this is how they get you. And this is how I've always said that if we were going to see a housing crisis, it would be from insurance. It would be from bad loans. It would be from a big foreclosure event, because all of a sudden people can't afford all this stuff.
I'm starting my day. So I'm starting my day. I just got some crazy news. My mortgage just went from $4,500 to $6,050, and it'll be effective March the 1st. I have never considered a bank, but I got this black hat and this black mask because, I mean, at this point, like, what the
So in a world where the average American has $1,000 set aside for a rainy day, and you get these big jumps, you know, and also I've always said all this 100% financing, all this no money down, no skin in the game, and all of a sudden you see somebody's mortgage or escrow jump, you know, tremendously like this. People are just going to say, you know what, you can have the house. I'm gone. But then what does that do? Their credit gets crushed. Then they can't go rent an apartment. So you're going to wind up with this humongous section of the population that has nowhere to go. They have nowhere to go. And be very careful if you let a house go into foreclosure, because your credit is going to be wrecked for a very long time. No car buying, no apartments, no credit cards. And don't get me started on credit cards. I'm going to do a whole nother video on credit cards.
Has anyone on here ever had almost a 50% increase in their monthly mortgage due to escrow? If so, I want to know if there's anything we can do about it, because it's quite insane. We used to pay about $1,100 every month for our mortgage, and I know that has like escrow, insurance, tax.
It's wild that so many people are just saying this is normal. It's just becoming a normal thing because it's happening so much. This is not a normal thing, as much as it's going up, okay? And I said this 3 years ago when they started printing all the money, that things are going to go through the roof, and nobody was paying attention.
Thinking about buying a house, like, years, my mortgage has gone up another $200. So over the last 3 years, my mortgage continues to increase $200. So over the last 3 years, my mortgage has gone up $600. And it's shocking. It is very shocking, because I don't feel like people talk about this. Like, people are all, you know, often glamorizing homeownership, but not really talking about the reality of homeownership in today's economy. So not only has my mortgage gone up, my HOA continues to increase every year. And it's just all shocking. It is all shocking.
They got me, y'all. And I knew they was going to get me, but I didn't know they was going to get me this hard. It's only been 6 months in this bitch. And my mortgage is going up $700. I knew it was going to be crazy, because the previous owners, like the people who bought it to renovate it, they were only paying land value, even though the house had been on the market with this current rate and a current county appraisal for X amount of months. But I don't know, somehow they only were paying land value. And then I lost my ID twice. It took them 3 months to send me an ID right before the election, so I wasn't able to file my homestead exemption. And my escrow now has an overage of the amount that I owe in taxes, which is going to put my payment up $700. So yeah, hey. And I don't want this to discourage you from purchasing a home. It's just something to keep in mind. And I also knew this when buying, because my loan officer said that there was no real way for them to get an accurate, which, I mean, he kind of told me that it was going to go up. And
not only is all this happening to everybody, these houses, most of these new builds are crap. Okay, a lot of them are bad. And it's shocking when you see videos like this.
Also house is falling over. Look at that. goodness. And another one. And another one. And one more. I don't think there is a single nut on any of these anchor bolts in this whole house. Missing a wall. So it's still windy outside, and I am walking on eggshells in this house.
6 years old who makes I just got off the phone with a gentleman who is 26 years old who makes I'm going to save that, but I got information that I told him I was going to share. I said I was going to make a TikTok about it because this is what's wrong currently in the housing market, okay? Gentleman calls me, young, doing great things in his life, and I did ask permission to share certain details. He's married, he has a kid, and he's looking to move to Delaware. Now, this person has flown through their career, done exceedingly well. And now between him and his wife now working a educational job, making about 45 grand, their household income is gonna be 165 grand. 165 grand. Now, both of them took on a little bit of student debt through college to get into their careers. Both own a vehicle, and both are paying for childcare for this child that you wouldn't believe what it costs to get a kid through preschool these days. I digress. So I have a conversation with this young man. And by the end of the conversation, I say young man like I'm 3 or 4 years older than him, but I have a conversation with this man who I saw a lot of myself in. And I remember being able to have that conversation with a real estate agent, buy a property. I had to tell this man based off of his debt and based off of what he was making, based off a couple other questions that I won't divulge, that he would be able to afford a $287,000 to about $290,000 house based off some math that I was doing. Now that is vulgar. That's disgusting that somebody who's doing that well in their life, somebody who has that much financial awareness to get to that point in their life so quickly. Also, this person has reserves and has savings. That it's not $1 billion. Obviously, they don't need a mortgage if they got that, but they do, and they've done so responsibly. They've gotten great jobs. They're working hard. It's disappointing to me that we are now in an ecosystem that is cool with, and a government, a situation here in the housing market where we're just fine with people not being able to have shelter. Like, these people have to move for their job. I'm telling him, you make over $150,000 and I can't get you a mortgage that's going to get you into a reasonable house in a reasonable area in a reasonable school district. That doesn't really seem fair to me. It doesn't sit well with me. And the problem with it is because that person now is looking to the rental market. And what are they seeing? They're not seeing a lot. They're seeing a lot of high prices. They're not seeing a lot of inventory available, just like home buying. And these people are now thinking, what are we gonna do? Regardless, the first home that you buy with your family, especially when you put your financial ducks in a row, your money ducks are all lined up in a row. That's that attention. At 26 years old, you and your family, and you're being told you can't get that first step done. You can't get your own.
We're quickly coming into a situation where the normal blue-collar worker, the person that has gone through college, has a good career, just the medium of the road, did what they're supposed to do, a teacher, a cop. Many of those people can't afford housing anymore. That's wild. What do you think? Comments down below.
If you hug your head.
I want you to pay attention to this one. He's going to explain these things that you need to look at when you're buying a house. When you get those documents from that lender, you need to look at these and know which ones are probably going to change.
You're buying a brand new home. You have to understand this disclosure right here. Now, this is where people get in trouble and they get confused. This is that payment from here. This is your escrow account. There is no way your property tax and your insurance is going to be covered by $127 a month. It's not going to happen. But they're allowed to tell you your estimated total payment is the combination of those two. So you pay that for a year and a half. However, they disclose to you that your escrow needs to have $513 a month in it. But they say property taxes, some of them are included in this payment. And they say that homeowners insurance is included and the HOA is not included in there. So if you get this statement, please send it to anyone you know buying a new home because they need to understand this. Their payment is going to be this plus this. And if they're not saving the difference between those two numbers, they're going to have a payment shock. The reason why is your taxes are paid in arrears. So the first year you pay, they'll reevaluate and then they'll say, hey, there's a house on this land now. The tax is going to go up to this. And the escrow account's like, all right, cool. We just paid last year's. No harm, no foul. Then you pay a whole nother year, and then they say, uh-oh, you're $300, $400 a month short. So moving into next year, we're going to have to collect that $300 to $400 a month short, and you're going to have to pay $300 to $400 a month more, making your payment $600 to $800 a month more to cover last year and the future, because your payment should have never been this number. I do not know how they're allowed to tell you that's your estimated total monthly payment, because it's not true. It's true in the fact that that's what the taxes are now, but they know damn well there's a house there because they're financing the entire house with the land that's just been built. And if you want more in depth about this process, if you don't understand it through the numbers, click the link in the original video. I go through like a 5-minute video of a lot of how insurance taxes can change. Insurance is paid ahead of time, so you can't get behind on it. Whereas taxes is paid in arrears, so you can get behind, so it doubles up and it jumps your payment shock, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. But this is why I love social media, because that video blew up. Hopefully this one does too, and it can help save people falling into this payment shock. And again, this is Florida. I've heard that other places send out payment shock letters, and that's nice because there's no reason people should be thinking that this is their payment for 30 years. When it literally shows you it should be $513 plus $1564. It's right there and right there. They just get away with, I don't know why they can't just make this.
But that's all I got, everybody. I want you to think about these things, discuss them in the comment section, argue back and forth. Who's wrong? Who's right? Should they know? I think you should know these things, but you should also surround yourself with those professionals that know these things so you don't get caught off guard. And these things can ruin your life when they're not really focused on enough. Not every real estate agent is the same. Not every lender is the same. Not every attorney is the same. Get the best one you can. Research, research, research. And if you're looking to buy or sell real estate, my email is down below. On the Gulf Coast of Florida, Alabama, I'd be happy to help you. And if you're anywhere in the United States and you're looking to buy a house and you don't know where to start finding an agent, email me and I'll do my best to find one for you. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm probably better at researching real estate agents than somebody that's never done one before or used one before. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. This was an interesting one.